What's up everybody, welcome back. So in this video we're going to take a look at unlocking characters, models and skins. So in the previous episode we started working on our XP system and it would be nice if that actually did something. So we're going to make it so we have to unlock skins, models and characters. So that's actually some progression in the game. We're also going to take a look at replication and ownership. So if I select a model over here that's not unlocked, you will see it will only update for the local client and not for the other instances of my character. And we're going to handle that by setting the correct ownership. So that's a pretty important part of replication and we're going to touch on that in this episode as well. So that's what we're going to do. If you enjoy the videos, please consider leaving a like. If you want to get your hands on any of the project files from my tutorials, you can check out the Discord. Most of my project files are in there and most of them are available for free. This project is what I would consider a premium project. It's a little bit more work and a little bit more time put into it. So if you want to get your hands on this project file, you can leave a small donation on my Ko-fi page. No need to become a member or anything, just leave a one-time donation and you will get access to the project files in the premium channels forever as well. So those are all the announcements I have for you today. Let's start working on the video. So first of all, let's take a look at a few small fixes and some cleanup. First, let's dive into the widgets folder. For the in-game HUD, we have a small problem with the alignment of the rank icon. So if we select it, it's actually anchored to the top left and most of the other stuff is anchored to the bottom right. So we need to make sure we anchor the icon to the bottom right and that should fix the alignment. Now, if we open up the main menu, we have an issue with our Reset XP button. If we click it, the XP info on the info card doesn't update. So the reset does kind of work, but the information on screen doesn't update. So we need to go into the designer to the on-clicked for the Reset XP. And if we simply drag our XP info card in here and we can call our update XP info, and that will make sure that the correct info is displayed again. And now if we dive into the game instance, resetting your XP may or may not have broken your game. So if we go into the framework folder, open the shooter game instance. So over here for the reset XP button, we only transfer the old player name and we reset everything in the profile. But as you might notice over here, I have no default setup in the structure. So this way, the things that are in the structure right now are not valid. So I do not have a character assigned and this way nothing will spawn. So we need to fix this. We need to go into our saved data folder, open up our player profile structure, and in here we need to make sure that we set the correct defaults. So for the character row name, you want to set the first default character that you want to use. So in my case, that's Quinn Blue. And I also want to select that character class. So that's Quinn Blue again. And then for the model name and the skin name, I want to make sure that I load the default skin and the default model. And then player XP 0 and player level 1. So this would be a new clean profile. So now I can save and close it down. And to make sure, you want to open up your save game object as well in the save data folder. And you might want to recompile it and make sure the defaults are actually here. And now if we go back into our game instance, this should also update. So if I would refresh maybe. That doesn't seem to work, so if I would grab a new one, make a player profile. So now the defaults are actually here. So we have Quinn Blue default, and we only need to plug in the player name to make sure this works. So now we can actually reset the profile and we have a clean profile again with nothing selected that we might not have unlocked yet. And now the next thing we need to take care of is setting our structures over here. Somebody in the comments actually mentioned there is a set members in struct node, which is a much better way of handling this. And I have used those in the past, but I just completely forgot about them. So thanks to Nas for actually mentioning it. And we're going to make sure that this is actually much cleaner to set up. So what we're going to do, we'll make a little bit of room. We're going to get rid of the setter for the player profile info, and instead we're going to get a getter. and drag off here, and then we're going to set the members in the structure. And with this node selected on the right side, you can expand this and you can make all of the variables inside of the structure a pin, and only the ones that you will select will be updated. So this way, if we add new variables to the structure, there's no issues with having to go back in here and make sure that we update these nodes, because we only change the values that we actually want to change. So here for the set members in player profile, in the change player name, I only want to change the player name. So I'm going to select this one, and then I can get rid of this make player profile and simply plug in the player name like this. And that should be all. So this will immediately save the struct. So this should be good to go. And now we need to make sure that if we go into our menu game mode or controller menu controller, that we also update these setters. So we have 3 functions in here for the save selected character, save selected model, and save selected skin. And in all 3 of those, we need to make sure that we're gonna replace this with a set members. So this is the set character function. So let's grab a profile in here, player profile, and let's set the members in struct. And over here we only want to override the character row name and the character class. So let's simply select those and make sure that we plug those in. So let's get rid of these and plug this in. And then we can get rid of this. And this should be good to go. And now let's do the same thing for the other functions. So we have save selected model. Let's grab a getter and set the members. And over here we only want to set the model name. So enable that one and make sure the pin is connected. There we go. And by the way, if we set the model, we want to reset the skin name. So let's also grab a pin for that and make sure that we set the skin name to default. So if we select a new model, we automatically select the default skin for the new model. And then for save selected skin, we only need to make sure that we save the actual skin. So let's grab the player profile again and set members. And this time we're going to set the skin name and plug this in. So now if we add a new variable to the struct, we don't need to worry about going back into these functions and hooking up the pins. This will simply work. So thanks for mentioning it in the comments. This is much better. So after the setup we did here, let's make sure that we are actually going to work on unlocking some models and skins. So first we need to set up some unlock levels for the characters, models and skins. So we're going to do that inside of our data tables and structures. And we're also going to do a little bit of cleanup. So if I go into the menu game mode, over here we have the function where we update our lobby character. And we grab the lobby animation from the character info table, but that's the only thing we're grabbing from this table. So I want to move it over to the character customization table. And that way we can also specify a different lobby animation for each model. So that's also a bit cleaner. So we're going to do that right away since we're already working in our character customization struct. So let's go into the characters folder, and first we're going to add an unlock level to the character customization structure. So this is the unlock level for the actual character. So we can simply add a new variable in here and call this something like unlock level character. And that's going to be an integer, and that's all we need to do in here. Now the next thing, we're going to add it into our models and skin structure, so we can also set up an unlock level. Oh damn it, it crashed. Okay, so we can also set up an unlock level for each model and skin in our struct. So I'm actually reloading it on the other monitor, so bear with me. So we need to open up our models and skin structure. There we go. Inside of our characters folder, And in here we also need to add some stuff. Now there is a slight chance your data table might be reset when entering new variables in here, so you don't want to do this too often, because you might have to actually enter all the values in your data table again. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but we're gonna give it a go. So first of all, we're gonna add our model unlock level. So let's add model unlock level, and that's an integer. The second thing we want to add is the mapping for the skin unlocks. So these are the skins unlock levels. And this time it's a map, so we're going to start with a name and then turn it into a map, and the second value is an integer. And then we also want to add our lobby animation in here, so let's do that as well. So animation, and that's going to be a single variable of an anim sequence, and plug that in here. And now let's see, we need to save and close this down. And now if we save everything else, hopefully this worked. So we're going to grab our character customization table, and everything is still in here, so that's good. Thank you. So now we need to set up some unlock levels and also set up the lobby animations in here. So I'm going to cover setting up the unlock levels first. And we need to make sure that we can actually test a little bit. So I'm going to make sure the default model is always unlocked. So if we set the unlock level to 0, that will means it will always be unlocked by default. And if you set it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., that's the level the actual unlock will take place. So you always want to make sure that your default model and your default skin is actually unlock level 0 or 1, so that it's actually unlocked at the start of the game. So the model unlock level 0, that's fine. And then for the skin we need to add map elements, so let's add one. And first of all we're gonna add it for the default skin, so that's 0. And then we want to add all of the other skins, so you want to add all of the names you used for the skins in here to make sure these match up, so it can actually find the correct unlock level. So let's add green, purple and red. Green, purple and red. So the default is unlocked at 0, that's fine. And now we're going to make the last two skins unlock at level 2, for example, so we can test to see if this is working. And we can actually set up a little bit more. So if we set the male model to unlock at level 2, example, for as well. And then you want to set up the skin mappings again, so the default skin is going to unlock 0, that's fine. So it will still unlock at level 2 because you cannot select the skin if you do not have the model unlocked, so that will work out fine. And then we could specify different values for different skins if we would like to. So first we have green, purple and red. And we could say something like 2, 3 and 4. There we go. And now the unlock level for the character. So this is the Quinn blue character that we have. So this is our default character. We need to make sure this is always unlocked. So we're going to keep this one at 0. And then I'm going to select my Quinn green character. And I want to unlock this one at level 2, for example. And then for purple, let's say level 3. And red, let's say level 4. So we have some different values in place to mess around with. Now I'm going to set up the skin unlocks and model unlocks with a few random variables, and I'm going to do that off video because this is going to take a little bit. And I'm also going to plug in lobby animations for each model, so there's actually an animation playing for the lobby character model. So I'm going to do that off camera. Just make sure you enter your values in the data table, and then we're going to continue from there. Let's finish up moving over our lobby animation first. So dive into the framework folder, open your menu GameMode. Come on. And in here we can move over the lobby animation pin to the models and skin structure. So we just added the new variable in here, and now we can get rid of this data table getter because we are not actually using any information from this data table anymore, and plug this in directly to the other one. So this is good to go. And now if we go back into our character folder, let's open up our character customization structure. No, that's not correct. The character info structure, so not the table, come on. And right here we can get rid of the character mesh and the lobby animation because we are actually using those from the models and skin structure. So later we're going to use this structure for all of the character variables like health, stamina and that kind of stuff. So we're still going to use this structure later, but for now it's out of the picture. So this is done. And now we can go to our widgets folder and start setting up our unlocks. So most of this is going to happen in the character menu. So let's open that first. And I'm going to create a pop-up that will pop up on screen if we are selecting an item that's locked. So first of all, let's grab a border in here. And I'm going to resize it a little bit. Let's not worry about it too much. So something like this. And set the correct color. So this is the content. I want to set the brush color. There we go. So inside the border, I'm going to drop a vertical box because I want to add 2 lines of text above each other. So let's drop in vertical box here, and then I'm going to drop some text inside the vertical box. And the first one is going to be a normal text. So I'm just going to select it and then make sure that it fills and that it's actually centered. So we're going to align it to the center over here. And then it's going to be italic, and I'm going to say locked. And probably increase the size a little bit, so maybe 28, 32, that looks fine. And then I'm going to duplicate this text. And this is going to be my text unlock level, and this is going to be a variable. So let's give it a proper name first, unlock level, and make it a variable. And then I'm going to shrink this down a little bit, so 26 maybe. And then this is going to say what level it's going to be unlocked at. So unlocked at level. And we're going to change that text in the graph later. So we could shrink this down a little bit. And let's anchor it. So let's grab it over here, anchor it to the center of the screen. And then that should be pretty good. So we're going to keep this. And let's dive into the graph. So we're going to create a function that will make sure that this border pops up. So let's call the new function pop-up item locked. And I'm going to give it 2 inputs. So the first one is the unlock level, and that's an integer. And the second one is going to be set visible. And that's a boolean. So new unlock level. So that's really unlock level. And that's an integer. So let's check our bool first to make sure if we want to show or hide it. And if we want to show it, we're going to set the text as well. So we're going to grab our text unlock level and drag it in here and set the text. And we want to format the text so we can actually give it a little bit of a sentence. So let's drag off here and make it format. And then I want to say unlocked at level. And then I'm going to open bracket a close bracket. And this again will create a wildcard. And here I can plug in my unlock level. So that's good. And then I want to simply set it to be visible. So drag off the border. So we need to make sure that the border is a variable. And we need to go back to the designer for that. So go to the designer and give this border a proper name. So border item locked. And make sure that it's a variable over here. And then by default, I'm going to set the visibility to hidden. So that's for the actual border. and then go back into the graph, and now we can drag in our border again over here and set the visibility and make sure that it's visible this time. And for the other pin, we simply want to hide it. We do not need to worry about the text, so we're going to plug this in and set it to hidden. And then our function for this is done, so we can grab a return node, and that's good to go. Now let's start setting up the actual locking and unlocking functionality. So the easiest way for us to lock something would be to make sure that we simply cannot select it in the menu. So what we're going to do, if we press a character button, for example, the first thing we're going to do is check if that character actually is unlocked before we do anything else. So that's kind of what we're going to do, and we're going to need one boolean in general to make this happen. So let's create that first, and it's going to be is locked item selected. So we have that in place, and first let's go into our character button pressed function, and let's start making some changes in here. So we need a local variable as well, so let's set that up, and we're going to call that local is unlocked. Local is unlocked. And let's start at the beginning of the function. So as I mentioned, before we do anything else, we want to make sure that we actually have this model unlocked, or character in this case. So let's disconnect this, and we're gonna drag this off here. Now first we're gonna grab our character customization table, because in there we have the unlock level for the character. So let's drag off the character row name, and let's get a table row. And we want to get our character customization table, and now we can break the out row, and over here we have the unlock level for our character. Now if this is 0, it will always be unlocked, so let's check that first. We're going to add a branch in here, plug it in, so if the character unlock level equals 0, then we're always good to go. And we're also going to grab our menu controller player profile. We already have that over here, so let's drag it to the left a little bit. And we're simply going to get our player profile level, and if this level is greater than or equal to the unlock level, so greater or equal, and plug in the unlock level, then it's also unlocked and we are also good to go. So let's connect these up with an OR boolean. So if one of these are true, then this will return true as well. So now we can set our local variable. Local is unlocked, so we can use that later. So the top one would be true if the item is unlocked. And now first we can continue like we used to do. So over here we make sure that the previous button that we had highlighted is going back to the default style. That's good. And then after that we need to make sure that we actually can highlight the next button. So over here we're going to make some room again. Let's make some room to the right. Why not? And now first we want to grab a new branch over here, and we want to check if the model is unlocked or the character is unlocked. So we're going to drop in our local is unlocked boolean, and let's connect up the execution first like this. And so let's do the true branch first. So if the local item is unlocked, then we want to make sure that if we had a locked item selected, so let's grab our locked item selected boolean, then we want to re-enable our back and our customize button. So this probably makes a little bit more sense if we do the false branch first. So let's do false first. So if we click this button and the character that we want to select is locked, so this is the false pin, then we're gonna set our is locked item selected boolean. So let's grab a setter, plug this in here and set this to true. But then we want to show our pop-up for the item locked. So we're going to drag in our pop-up item locked function and make sure that the pop-up is displayed. So we want to set it to visible, and for the unlock level we can grab it from the models and skin struct, or the character customization struct, I'm sorry. So after we showed the pop-up, we want to make sure that we cannot leave the menu, because then we have a character saved that we cannot use. So we're going to grab our back button. And we're also going to grab our button that opens the customization menu, so button customize. And we're going to set both of these to be disabled. So set enabled and set them to false. And we can plug both of them into the same node. So those two buttons are disabled and we are now stuck in this menu. And then we want to go to our menu controller, and from there we want to make sure that we update our lobby character, but we need to create a new function for that. So what we could do is go into our framework folder, open our menu controller, and let's create the dummy function real quickly. So I'm going to create a custom event in here and call this server preview unlocked preview locked character. Sorry. So create a new custom event, server preview locked character. And this is going to be replicated to run on server, and I'm going to set it to be a reliable event. So in this case, we're in the lobby. This will execute a few times maybe, so this doesn't really matter if it's reliable. So we have this in place, and we can compile, and we can go back to our character menu, and from here we're going to call this new event. So let's drag in our menu controller and preview a locked character. So this is a character we cannot actually select, but we might still want to see how it looks. So we're going to preview it, but we're going to handle that later. And then we still want to update our player stats. So let's grab the update player stats from the back of the original function and paste it over here as well. So for the character row name, we can grab that from the input. So if we go back all the way to the beginning, the input gives us the character row name we can use. So we can plug that in over here. And then that should be all for the false branch. So now we can hook this up all the way at the end to the return node, and this is good to go. And now if we are going back to this branch over here, so if we are selecting an item that is actually unlocked, then we want to check if we previously had a locked item selected, because if we do, then we want to reset these buttons. So let's do that first. So let me grab my notes quickly. So we're going to check if we had a locked item selected. If this is true, we're going to grab these buttons again, so the back button and the customization button, and we're going to re-enable those. And then we're going to grab the setter for the is item locked, and we want to make sure that we set this back to false. And then we want to remove our pop-up for the item locked, so we're going to drag in this function and we're going to set the visibility to false, and that will reset everything over here. So then we can plug this back into the previous branch that was looking for the button map. And for the false pin over here, so if we did not have a locked item selected, then we can simply continue over here as well. So this should be the function for the character button pressed, and now we need to make sure that we actually update our locked character. So let me grab my notes quickly. So over here we are in the widget, so we are a local controller. So we're going to call this replicated event that will replicate it back to the server. In case we are actually the server already, this will still execute on the server, so this doesn't matter. We can just call this for clients and the server. Now we're going to grab our menu GameMode, so we can copy all of this stuff from the function above here. So we need to cast it to the menu GameMode as well, and then we're going to call a new function, and that's going to be called preview character for controller. Yeah, that's a new function, so we need to create it. So let's go into our framework folder, menu GameMode, and over here I'm going to create a new function, custom event, and call this preview character for controller. And in here I want to get a few inputs. So the first one is going to be the controller. and that's a menu controller reference. So menu controller. And then we need 3 names. So I'm going to enter the character row name. And that's a name variable. And then the model name and the skin name for this character as well. Model name and skin name. And let's compile and save this and go back to the menu controller. So from here we're going to call this event. So preview character for controller. Now the controller is a reference to ourselves. So let's grab a reference and plug that in. And for the names we're going to pass those on as a variable. So we can drag them onto the event node. And then if we go back into the, let's compile and save and go back to the character menu. Now we need to enter these name variables in here. So let's grab my notes again. So for the model name and the skin name, we're simply going to use the default skins because this character is locked. So we just want to display the default skin. So I'm going to make a literal name. And then in here, I'm simply going to type default and plug that into both of the model name and the skin name pins. And for my character row name, I can simply use the one from the input from this function. So that's the same one that we plugged into the character stats. So we can simply plug it in here as well. So this is good. Now let's go back to the menu controller. We already had this set up and this will execute on the server. So this will go back to the server game mode and then execute this function. And now let's set up this function. So let's go in here. From our controller, we want to grab our lobby character. So get lobby character. And we want to update it with the correct values. So we're going to grab our character row name and get a table row. And we want to get our character customization table. And from here we can grab the models and skins and things like that. So we're going to break our character customization struct. And from the character customization struct, we're going to find the correct model. So drag off the models and skins and we're going to find and simply plug in the model name from the event over here. And then we can break the output again. And that will give us all of the skins that we can use. So now we can drag off our skins 0 map and we're going to find another one. And this will be the input from the skin name. So plug that in over here. Now let's set up this function. So we're going to use the replicated characters in a little bit of a different way. So we're only going to update the client character. So other players do not see all of the skins changing constantly if we are selecting skins that are locked and things like that. So in this case, we're only going to update the character for the actual local player. And for that, we need to make a few other functions because right now we only have multicast events and those will actually update them for all players. So if we go to our lobby character, gameplay lobby, open up our lobby character. So we want to make, let's say, versions of these functions that will only replicate on the owning client. So let's do the character mesh first. So instead of multicast set character mesh, we're going to create a client set character mesh. And this is going to replicate to run on the owning client. And we're also going to set this to be reliable. And then we can simply copy this over and do the same thing as we did over there. Plug in the variable and that's good to go. So we're going to do the same thing for the mesh animation. So let's create a custom event and call this client play mesh animation. Again, run on owning client and set reliable. And then we can simply copy and paste this over here and plug it in. And we need to do the same thing for the skins as well. So let's create a third custom event and this will be client set skin material. Again, we're going to run this on the owning client and set it to be reliable. Copy over this stuff and plug everything in. So now we have client versions for those functions as well. So now let's compile, save it, and we can go back to our menu game mode. And first let's update our character mesh. So let's drag off the lobby character here and do client set character mesh. Plug it into the row found pin, and we're going to grab the actual model from the models and skin structure. Then we're going to play the correct animation. So again, we're going to drag off the lobby character, client play mesh animation, and grab the lobby animation from the structure again. And then let's set up the skins. So we're going to grab a boolean, or a branch, I'm sorry, and plug in the boolean. So if we want to use this skin, then we want to call our client set skin material. So drag off the lobby character again and client set skin material. Plug it in the true pin and grab the values from the table, so the material slot. And then we're going to use the find node to return the actual material. And do the same thing for the second material slot. And if you have more material slots, then obviously do all of them. So plug in the boolean, the material slot index, and let's grab another find node over here and plug in the other skins map with the correct skin name, so the skin name from the input of the event. And there we go, that's set up. And now we're gonna have a really important thing to show about replication. So first let me fix this. This needs to be a lobby character, so I need to plug this in over here. Now we're going to try and replicate this stuff to the owning client of our lobby character. So let's see what happens if we actually test this in game. So let's do a quick little test. Let's launch with 2 players. And first of all, I'm going to click my reset XP button since we fixed that. So now I know my profile is good to go. Now let's go into the host game and let's search a game as well. So what should happen if I'm going to select a character that is locked, it should only update the character mesh for the local player and not for the other players. And only if I select a character that I can actually select, it will update it for all players. So if I go to select character for the server and I'm going to select a different one, so this is locked, unlocked at level 2, and I cannot actually select it or go back, so that's good. And you can see the character model for me is updated, but for the client it didn't change. So that's what we actually want to happen. So I can select different models, but all of them are locked right now. So I need to go back to my blue character, and this one I can actually use. So let's go back, and that's good to go. Now let's see what happens if we try this with the client. So if we're going to select a model over here, this doesn't work. So right now you can see it still updates the server function, server version of my character instead of the local character. And we need to take care of it by setting the correct ownership. So over here, if we go into our framework folder, so we have the lobby character, and although we did assign that to the menu controller using a variable, that doesn't really actually mean anything to the engine, obviously. It's just a variable in here, but this doesn't really actually handle anything like ownership. And if we go back into the menu game mode, we actually spawned the lobby characters from the menu game mode, and that means the server actually owns them. So let me see if we go back over here, update selected characters. So if we do not have a selected character yet, we are spawning one over here. And this happens on the server, so in this case the server is the owner of our lobby character. So if we call a replicated event to run on the owning client, because that's the keyword over here, the client that owns the connection will actually, this event will be replicated to. And if the client doesn't actually own that connection, it doesn't work. So we can fix this by expanding our spawn actor node, and over here we can assign an owner. So if we simply plug in our player controller that spawns this lobby character as the owner, that should fix our issue. So if we compile, go back and test again, then this time it should actually replicate to the correct client. So let's host the game and let's search one. There we go. So let's check the client first, and this time it will update my local model and not the server model. So this is what we want. And now if I select models I do not have unlocked, I will not spam the other clients with keep constantly changing the model. And I can select the blue one, so that's good. And the server should still work. So that's good to go. So we have that set up, and we have a little bit of explanation on ownership, and that's a really important part. So keep in mind, if you spawn anything, for example, the owner isn't always who you might expect, and that will actually mess with your replication. So we have this set up. Now all we need to set up is the customization button for the models and skins menu to do the same thing. So let's open up our character menu, and we need to do the same thing for the customization buttons that we did for the character buttons. So that simply means if we click something that is not unlocked, we cannot select it. So let's open up the customization button pressed function, and in here, first of all, let's create a new local variable that we're going to use. So local is unlocked. That's a boolean, that's good to go. And in here we are dealing with two buttons. We have skin buttons and model buttons, so we need to handle those differently. Let's do the skin button first. So we're going to disconnect this branch over here. If this is true, we are a skin button, and we want to check, we are a model button, I'm sorry, and we want to check if this model actually is unlocked. So we're going to drag off, and we're going to get a table row name, a table row, and we want to get our character customization table. So now we simply want to get the player profile from our menu controller again. So get the profile from the menu controller, and we're going to split it. So from here we can grab the character row name from the player, so we can drag it onto the table row name, and then we can break the out row. So let's do that. Over here we're going to get the unlock level for this character. We don't need it. We want to get the unlock level for the model, so we're going to drag off the mapping, and we're going to find. And we actually want to find the model that comes from the input from this function, so we're going to plug in that model name and then break the outcome over here, and this will return the model unlock level, and that's what we need. So on the left side over here we can hide all of the unconnected pins, and we could only choose to show the model unlock level. Then we want to know if this is 0, because if it is, it's always unlocked, and if the player profiles level is greater than or equal to the unlock level, it's also unlocked. So we're going to grab the player's profile level, oh come on, and we're going to do is greater than or equal to. And if that's greater than or equal to the unlock level, we are good to go as well. So this can be hooked up to an OR boolean. And then we're going to grab a branch and plug that into the condition. And we can set our local variable first. So local is unlocked. And if this is false, it's not unlocked. And if it's true, it is unlocked. So with that out of the way, we can continue to the first for each loop with break like we did previously, and this will make sure that the correct button will go back to the default style. So after we set the buttons back to the default style, we want to add some new logic. So we're going to disconnect it over here. So let's make sure we disconnect it at the correct place, because we have a lot of for each loops in here. So if we go into the function, we are checking if the model is unlocked. We just added that. We have one for each loop with break that checks if this is a model button, and then we'll actually enable the customization button and set it back to the default style. Disconnect this pin, and after that should come a second for each loop that will set the button to be enabled false, and then we'll actually update the menus. So we want to do this later. First we want to add a branch in here and hook it up. And we want to check if we previously, no, that's not true. If we are currently selecting something that it's locked or unlocked. So grab the local variable and plug that into the branch over here. So if we are selecting something that it's locked, we want to grab our isLockedItemSelect boolean, and we're going to set this to true. Then we want to show the pop-up for the item locked, so we can drag that in as well. Make sure that we set it to be visible, and we're going to grab the unlock level from the structure over here. So that's the model unlock level that we just grabbed. After we showed the pop-up, we want to disable the back button, so we cannot leave the menu with something selected that's not unlocked. And we want to make sure that we grab the correct back button. So if we go into the designer, we are actually inside of our customization menu, and we want to disable this back button. So that's my back button 1. So go back to the graph, and I'm gonna drag in my back button number 1 and set enabled. So this is enabled false. And then I want to call my preview locked character function again. So drag in my menu controller, and I'm going to preview a locked character and plug it in. So what do I want to preview? I want to grab the character row name from the player profile, and we're going to grab the model name from the input of the function. So we're going to grab character row name from the player profile that comes from the menu controller. And then we're going to preview the model that comes from the input of the function. So plug that in over here. And because this is a model that it's actually locked, we're going to preview the default skin. So we're going to simply type in default in here. And that's good to go. And then all we want to do is grab all of our customization buttons that are currently in the widget, and we're going to check if they are skin buttons, because if they are, we want to hide them for now. So we have a model selected that's not unlocked, so there's no use for buttons that handle the skin, so we're going to simply hide those. So we're going to get is skin button from here, hook that up to a branch, and if this is a skin button, we're going to set the visibility and set it to be hidden. And plug this into the true pin. Now that's good to go. And if this for each loop is completed, we are done over here. So we can hook this into the return node. And that's the branch over here. Now if we, let's see. So if we select something that is unlocked, then we want to check if we previously had something selected that was locked. So we're going to grab another branch in here, and we're going to grab our isLockedItemSelected boolean. So if the item that we had selected is locked, we're going to set this back to false. So grab a setter, set it back to false. Then we want to remove the pop-up item locked. So drag that in as well and set the visible to false. Then we want to make sure that we re-enable our back button. So let's copy and paste that over here, and we're going to re-enable it. And then we want to show any of the skin buttons that may have been hidden. So we're going to copy the for each loop and paste it over here. So for each customization button, check if it's a skin button. If it is, we're going to set it to visible. So that's good to go as well. If this for each loop is completed, we want to hook it back up to the previous for each loop that this was attached to. So we're going to go back to the previous execution, and we're going to go to the for each loop with break. That will set the customization button to active. And you want to grab the false pin from the locked item selected and plug that into the same for each loop as well. So we just hook this up in between the two for each loops that were already here. So this should be good to go, and that should handle the model selection. And now we need to do the same thing for selecting a skin. So we can pretty much copy most of it. So let's go back to the beginning where we check if the thingy that we clicked is actually unlocked, and we're going to copy all of this stuff. Now the first branch checks if this is a model button. If this is false, we have a second branch that checks if this is a skin button. If this is true, we want to disconnect it and paste the stuff that we just copied. So the true pin goes to the get table row name. And now we need to make a few small changes. So let's grab my notes in here quickly. Let me see, we want to grab the character customization structure from the character row name of the profile. That's good. Then we want to find the actual model from the player profile as well. So we're going to drag off the model and skin structure, and we're going to grab the model from the player profile. And then we want to actually get the skin mapping for the unlocks. So instead of the model unlock level, we're going to grab the skin unlock levels, and this will return a map. And from this map, we're going to find again. And we want to find the skin that comes from the input node of this function. So go to the input and grab the skin name from here and plug that into the find node. And that will return the unlock level for this skin. So if that's 0, or if the player is a higher level than the unlock level, then we are good to go. So then we are setting our local booleans. That's good. And we can simply continue with the for each loop that was already here. And then after this first for each loop, we need to disconnect it again and add the stuff in between that we did over here. So we have again 2 for each loops. We're going to disconnect it in between after the set enabled is true for the button customization. And then we're going to copy the stuff that we created above here. So we're going to grab everything from the branch that checks the local bool up into the for each loops that will hide and show the skin buttons. So we're going to copy all of that stuff, paste it down here. And we do not need the for each loops, so we can actually just delete both of those and get rid of them. That's fine. Now this is all we need. And first we want to hook it up to the correct execution pin. So the first for each loop, set enabled, and then we're going to continue with the branch, check local is unlocked. And then let me check quickly. So if this is false, then we want to set is locked item selected true. That's correct. We want to grab the pop-up item locked, the unlock level from the mapping over here. So drag that to the skin mapping and grab the unlock level from there. We want to set it to be visible. That's good. Disable the back button. That's good as well. So preview locked character. We want to get the skin name from the input of this function. So drag it to the input node and grab the skin name from here. And for the character row name and the model name, we can simply grab it from the player profile. So grab the character row name and the model name and plug those in here. And this could go to the return node because that's all we need to do in this branch. So that's done. And over here, let me see. I don't think we need to change anything. So we're setting this back to false. We are hiding our pop-up. We enable the button again. And that's pretty much good to go. So we can hook this up back to the for each loop and make sure that we also grab the false execution from here and hook that up as well. So we placed all of this stuff in between those 2 for each loops that were already here. So this should work. Let's just give it a go. So I'm gonna compile and save, and let's check it out. So right now I'm level 2. I do not want that, so I'm gonna reset my XP, and now a lot of the stuff should be locked. So I'm gonna host a game, select character. So I cannot select any other characters because those are all locked at higher levels. Now let me grab my blue character and I'm going to customize it. So I cannot select the male model because that's level 2 as well, and the back buttons will be disabled. There's no skin buttons, so that's good. Now I need to select the default model again, and that will make the other buttons reappear. So I can select a different skin, and the other skins should be locked as well. So these are unlocked at level 2, that's correct. And this will disable the back button again. So that's good to go. And this was also working. So now let's see if I go in game and level up to level 2, if I actually unlock some models and skins. So let's grab some XP over here. There we go, level 2. Go back to our main menu, multiplayer host, character. So this is level 3, that's still locked. And the second character is unlocked right now. So I just unlocked my Quinn green character. And if I go back to my blue character, customize, this time I should be able to select the male model. So that's working as well. I just unlocked my male model. I should be able to select all 4 of these skins because those were unlocked at level 2. And these skins are unlocked and these are locked. So it seems like everything is working as it should. So I think we got everything covered. Again, a little bit longer video, but not as bad as the other ones. The result, I like it. I like unlocking things, so yeah, it's worth it in my opinion. Thanks for watching everybody, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and I'll be back for more soon. Later guys.